A historic eve in America. A man who was once the leader of the free world is preparing to appear in court to face charges that could put him in federal prison. Welcome to Elizabeth Vargas Reports, earning your trust every night. Former President Trump is meeting with his legal team in Florida tonight, preparing for his historic arraignment in federal court tomorrow. He arrived in Florida late this afternoon. A group of supporters is rallying outside Mar-a-Lago for his arrival. Trump faces 37 federal charges stemming from his refusal to hand over hundreds of classified documents he stored at Mar-a-Lago. At one point, they were right out in the open, on the same stage in the ballroom where Trump enters and entertains guests and gives impromptu speeches, according to that indictment. At another point, they were in boxes stacked in a nearby bathroom. At trial, he will face Judge Eileen Cannon. She was appointed by then President Trump just days after he lost the 2020 election. Earlier, Mr. Trump left in a motorcade from his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club, heading to the airport. And that was another place he kept documents, and according to the indictment, where he showed top secret military plans to an author and to members of his staff. The former president has been arraigned before in his previous home of New York City. And while that indictment over hush money payments to an adult film star was pilloried by some for being thin legally, the one he'll face tomorrow is not. Former President Trump is caught in a web of serious legal drama, and his unwavering support from some voters leave a historic showdown on the horizon. NewsNation's Robert Sherman joins us now with all the latest details today. Robert.
Elizabeth, good evening to you. And the former president is on the ground in Florida, set to be in that courthouse behind us tomorrow. Throughout the day, we've seen media outlets from across the country and around the globe arriving at this spot as all eyes turn to Miami and to tomorrow. With Trump Force One touching down in South Florida and the motorcade rolling off to Doral, the 45th president is back in the Sunshine State, all set to appear at a Miami federal courthouse tomorrow to be arraigned. He's expected to plead not guilty, telling his supporters as much on the campaign trail this weekend.
We did nothing wrong whatsoever. We did absolutely nothing wrong.
The former president is facing 37 counts. According to the Department of Justice, 31 of them are for retaining documents related to national defense, which investigators contend he did not have the authority to do so. There is also a count for conspiring to obstruct justice, several for concealing or withholding documents and information, and providing false statements. Investigators allege these were all an attempt by the former president and an associate to mislead officials and his own legal counsel in order to retain possession of the classified materials. When the FBI raided the former president's residence in Mar-a-Lago last year, they recovered 102 classified documents. Some, according to investigators, included information about the military and nuclear capabilities of foreign countries, information about the United States' own nuclear weapons, U.S. military contingency plans, and correspondence with foreign leaders. While the documents were found in the president's office and a storage room, there were periods of time where investigators say they were kept in places like a bathroom and on a ballroom stage.
Take a look at the Presidential Records Act. We did it by the book. Perfect. Except we have thugs and creeps running this country, and it's a real problem for our country.
The former president has been calling the investigation politically motivated, but the attorney general who served under his administration, William Barr, making headlines for saying he doesn't see it that way.
If even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment, and it's very, very damning.
If convicted of all 37 counts, the former president would face a maximum of 400 years in prison. The judge presiding over this case is Eileen Cannon, who was appointed to the bench by then President Trump in 2020. There are no plans for the judge to recuse herself from the case, despite some critics calling for it. After the former president is arraigned tomorrow, he's scheduled to go right back to Bedminster, New Jersey, where he has an event planned for tomorrow evening. That event was supposed to be a 77th birthday party celebration, but now the former president is slated to give remarks at that and come out strongly against this investigation. Elizabeth.
All right, Robert Sherman, thanks so much.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.